Hellblade 2: Senua's Saga is the sequel to Hellblade 1, Silly Sausage, and continues the adventures of Senua, Norse warrior lady, and Manic Pixie Dream Girl without the pixie part and only dream in the sense of constantly hallucinating wildly. Having gotten over her lover being murdered by those northern bastards, Senua is resolved to stop beating herself up and take her therapy in a more constructive direction by beating up some northern bastards instead. So she stows away on a slave ship to their home turf, but because this game has a Tomb Raider reboot level fetish for beating the absolute snot out of its heroine for the sake of grittiness, she gets wrecked by a storm and winds up crawling up a blood-stained shingle beach in the rain, although she shouldn't gripe. By Icelandic standards, that would be classified as one of the more touristy areas. The gameplay is much like God of War Ragnarok, even with the Scandi-Ouija setting aside, with its over-the-shoulder camera, press forward to continue gameplay, and enthusiasm for narrow cave spelunking. But where Ragnarok used NPCs to ensure the constant flow of verbal diarrhea, Hellblade cuts out the middleman by leaving that to the voices in Senua's head. The game recommends using headphones, but I'm not sure I would, unless you like the sensation of two slightly posh British ladies whispering your shortcomings in both your ears at every opportunity, once normally and once in a slightly ethereal way. Personally, it reminds me too much of my family counselling sessions. Anyway, Senua's vague plan to rock up to the headquarters of the Slavers and demand to speak to the manager slips by the wayside when she discovers that the island's various communities are being tormented by evil giants and she's the only one who can kill them. If this were the first game, I'd suspect the giants were supposed to represent something like societal collapse or Senua's anxiety towards her upcoming job interview or whatever. But Hellblade 2 subtracts some of the ambiguity from the narrative. I feel like there was a lot in the first game you were supposed to assume was delusional or metaphorical, but in the sequel, Senua gathers some NPC helper friends, and when she kills a giant, they're all like, "Fuck a duck! The weird starey lady just killed an actual literal giant! We all saw it! Let's get her on the fucking lecture circuit!" I guess Senua could be hallucinating all of them, too, but that never fucking ends, does it? Maybe the whole game's a hallucination. Maybe Senua's actually a daydreaming data validation clerk from Tunbridge Wells. So if you enjoyed that joke so much you now have to run off and write it on a toilet wall somewhere, here's a quick summary of this review. I didn't like Hellblade 2 much. As I say, it's a little too much of a press forward to continue Ghost Train ride for my tastes, and the highest praise I could offer is that it's got some damned impressive visuals, when it's not exclusively taking place in gloomy Icelandic caves, I mean. It's going for that God of War single unbroken take no loading screens gimmick, which just means they have to hide all the loading elsewhere while you're doing the narrow cave squeeze thing, and taking prolonged slow walks through very artfully crafted sod all. But the battles with the giants are generally fucking spectacular, for what little gameplay is involved, and whatever's actually supposed to be happening, and a lot of effort went into the facial animation, which the game is very fucking keen to show off. The camera keeps zooming really close into Senua's face while she massively overacts about whatever's giving her a mental breakdown this time, which made me very uncomfortable. Her teeth are so fucking big, I kept thinking. It's like being cornered at a frat party by a sexually aggressive piano. Hey everyone, Yahtzee just denigrated a female protagonist for looking weird. Guess we've lost another one to Andrew Tate. Oh, piss off. I'm mostly down on Senua for her decision-making process. On something like 3 separate occasions, we rock up to some eerily quiet village or forest or other, and the NPCs are all like, "We mustn't go in there, it's full of danger and monsters and killer bees that specifically target women with large teeth and names that start with S." And Senua will be like, "No, actually, it's suddenly vitally important that I go in there. Someone might need help." She certainly got what I once said was reboot Lara Croft's problem, a bad case of the have-tos, where they keep reluctantly doing stupid things because they say they have to with little further examination, which makes them come across as lacking agency. I know she's supposed to be mentally ill, but maybe the reason I had to take a break every couple of hours is because I find it exhausting to watch a mentally disabled woman blundering again and again into situations that a blind puffin could predict would lead to her getting her face smashed against rocks some more. Sorry if that's condescending of me. Obviously the neurodivergent should be free as anyone else to smash their face into rocks. Speaking of which, at least the combat makes up for it. Oh, sorry, I misread that. Instead of makes up for it, I should have said sucks lukewarm guitar through a human centipede, and instead of at least, I should have said fuck me up the stench zone. Every now and again, the game interrupts the slowly walking through rocky landscapes routine to go, "Oh shit, we just remembered we're a video game called Hellblade, for fuck's sake," and some combat happens. And it always plays out exactly the same way. Angry dude walks in from off-screen, tokenly backhands Senua across the mush, and then the pair of you square off into a series of extremely samey, pre-baked animations till you press the right button enough times to win, whereupon the bouncer lets another dude through the velvet rope and the whole sequence plays out again till we've worked our way through whatever arbitrary number of burly dudes are on the guest list. And it feels like you're playing fucking Dragon's Lair with a glitch that makes the laser disc skip. Then, about halfway through, you unlock a power which I like to call the "I'm bored of this fight now" button. Once you've built up enough energy, you just press it to do an unblockable combo and almost always instantly win, just in time for the next backhand from off-screen. I mean, if you want to make a walking sim, nothing's stopping you guys. They're a bit polarizing, but at least we can have fun complaining about it. This half-baked attempt at core combat just kills the pace. You know, part of what feels disingenuous about Senua's apparent motive to help others is that we never see any fucking others. Like, your NPC friends are all leaders of communities and enlist you to fight the giants that are attacking those communities, but in almost every case they're like, "Yes, my villagers are under threat. They're right over there, behind that ridge, where you can't see. You'd like them, probably." And then if you ever do see them, it's only when they're running around screaming and getting killed because the game jerked awake again and remembered it needed a combat-y bit. And then at the very end, the final boss sequence dissolves into one of Senua's trademark hallucinatory self-examination moments where she goes, "Can I be a leader to these people? You know, those people right over there, behind the hallucinatory fog." fog, where you can't see. You'd like them, probably. In final summary, the only 2 points that recommend Hellblade 2 for me are that it looks nice and it isn't very long. The same advantages as a beginner-sized dildo with a bow on the end. Oh, sorry, there's no credits message this week? Thanks for sticking around, though. Oh, I guess you want one of those call to action things? Okay, remember, if I made you laugh at any point today, then you have to like or subscribe or consider joining the Patreon to support us. It's the rule. If you don't, you go to prison or something. You know, it's like being in a live comedy audience and not laughing at jokes you find funny. It raises the question of why you're even there, and the audio mixer will think you're a dick.